Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Shenanigans podcast. I'm here with Greg, my co-host,
Hello.
and today we're going to be talking about friendships because we're all about love here.
Yes, the power
So,
of friendship.
oh my gosh. So, Greg, how do you go about making friends?
Um, well, funny story. The first, the first friend I ever had, was in kindergarten, and I guess that's when I first started developing how to make friendships. Um, I used to be very blatant. I would go up to them, I'd say hi. It's like, do you want to be friends? I was like, yeah, sure. Um, Obviously my friendship skills got more complicated over the years, but in the
What?
begin
No way. No. You're totally not a subtext person. Just yo, let's be buds.
honestly, that's exactly how I got my best friend throughout elementary school. His name was Cameron. I went up to him one day in
Cute.
first grade and it was like, "Hey, do you want to be friends?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." And then we just like started like we were the best friends for 7 years after that. It was great. What about you?
Cute. Honestly, I was really like a one friend kind of person until I hit middle school. So I didn't really develop that sort of like socialite things that I have now until then. And I like random conversations with people, and sometimes those develop to be just more than random.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um.
How do
Could.
you
Hmm.
how do you go around picking your friends? Like who who stands out to you? Like what qualities go with this person in my life?
Um. Well, I first see if like I mean usually when I try to hang out with someone, I usually try to look for some similar qualities that we share together. Like if we both like video games or anything, or something they'd like to talk about, you know? It'd be really awkward if you just came up to someone and like, "Hey, do you want to be friends?" Like, "Yeah, sure." Okay. And you just sit awkwardly, just have nothing in common. So I guess finding someone with some character qualities similar to mine is the first step. Um,
Mhm.
but
You know, I like to call the whole like we're just friends but we don't have common interests or like a deeper connection thing. I call that Ferris wheeling because especially when people are in relationships, all they tend to talk about is the fact that they're in a relationship.
wait,
So it never amounts to more than just, yeah, we're friends.
huh, that's a really interesting way to think about that. Huh.
Yeah, cuz all you talk about when you're on a Ferris wheel is being on a Ferris wheel. Yeah,
Very great analogy. Love it.
thank you. Thank you.
Um, well, I guess I was gonna say something about that analogy and then I forgot. So I'm probably just gonna transition to something like um actually I was gonna say like care to elaborate. You said like you talking about stuff like some conversation would not be random anymore. Would you? I was a little confused on what you were saying there.
Yeah, so like the whole Ferris wheel thing, you get on a Ferris wheel, you talk about the view from the Ferris wheel, how you feel on the Ferris wheel, blah blah, right? And that's the same thing with like surface level friendships. You talk about like, "Oh, how are you? I'm glad we're friends. This is cool." But once you get into like the actual, I suppose, swing of things, it becomes more of just a vibe. You no longer have to ask how they are, even if you do, you just know.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that clarifies it.
Yeah.
Um, so speaking of like getting these friendships and stuff, how often, like you said that you didn't actually start having more than a singular friend until like sixth grade or something after middle school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so after you did that, like how expansive did you go with in terms of like getting more and more friendships?
Well, I most of my friends came from school just because that's the sort of environment I was in where you had school friends and that's just how it was. And I didn't agree with a lot of them and their behavior. I came from a very distinctively politically leaning town where everything was very black and white,
Hmm.
and I found it hard to find the gray in between. So that fact alone, I think, limited my ability to make friends in middle school. But once I hit high school, man, I've got over like 300 contacts in my phone.
Dang. Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, yeah, weird flex, but okay.
I think I have a little bit of a contrasting childhood with that because I
Ooh,
live
analysis time.
in a subdivision where
Oh,
I actually have a lot of neighbors. Um, so I'd say the majority of my friends that I made in middle school, um, came from came from school, of course. But then I'd say 20% of it came from my neighbors. And
okay.
I mean, I still have some of my neighbor friends that I hang out with, but that's usually during the summer now. Um, really, school has been like hindering my friendships with them because I'm really busy very often, so it's hard for me to hang out and stuff like that. But yeah, in middle school, I used to go on bike rides with my neighbors and get friendships like that. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so you mentioned that you're still friends with some of your neighbors, but we're approaching the end of high school. Do you think you're gonna keep in contact with like the people in your subdivision, the people from high school, even some from middle school?
Um, well, and just pertaining to neighbors, probably not. Um,
Oh,
it's unfortunate. No, not because that I don't like them. It's just that, um, well, it's I haven't. We've been more and more distanced. There we go. That's the word. After high school, because high school is really like the moment I entered high school is really the moment that my life changed because everything was different now. As like beforehand, I could come home, play play some mobile game on my phone, and then go bike riding. Now I can't do that anymore because I have homework and other responsibilities to worry about. So the fact that I've been more distanced from my neighborhood friends also is probably gonna be a consequence. Well, is gonna result in me not having in contact with them after I probably move out. Um, but with pertaining to middle school and high school friends, I'm hopefully I'm aiming for at least a couple friends to stay in contact with after during college. So
I hope I'm one of them. Yeah, I definitely think distance is going to play a part in that, depending on how far we go away, really dictates how much we're going to be able to talk and meet up and the like, which kind of
yeah,
breaks my heart. I have
super
an
unlucky.
attachment to a lot of people in our high school, and especially the teachers as well. I still go back and see my middle school teachers probably at least once a year.
Oh my
So,
God. Like, okay,
yeah.
so I had a teacher. Her name, okay, I'm gonna have a classified name. Let's call her Susie, okay?
Oh, epic.
So Susie,
No, Miss Susie,
sorry,
just
sorry,
teacher.
Miss
Yeah.
Susie
Okay.
was my favorite middle school teacher. I
Got
loved
it.
her from the bottom of my heart. And the reason why I loved her so much is because she was like the nicest lady I've ever met. And she made social studies so enjoyable for me. Even though I preferred mathematics and science, actually my favorite class during middle school was social studies, just because of how nice this teacher was and how much I loved
Flashback
her.
to when we called it social studies.
Oh
This
yeah, we don't say that anymore.
is weird. Alright,
Yeah.
yeah.
Flashback when we actually called gym. Funny.
Oh,
Anyways, I was going. I really wanted after I left high school. I'm sorry. What? No, sorry. After I left middle school, I was planning on meeting Miss Susie, like during after school hours. I would go to my middle school and go to the office, say, hey, could I schedule a meeting with Miss Susie so I can say hi to her after like years of not seeing her. And well, I did that one day. However, I came unprepared because I had no uh arrangements already set in place with Miss Susie. So I walked into the office and they're like, "What, Greg? What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, it's like, hey, I was just seeing to go and see Miss Susie." And they're like, Greg, well, you need to make an arrangement for that. I'm like, oh, I didn't think this through, did I? And so I
Mhm.
walked home, and then I never saw Miss Susie ever again.
That's so sad.
Yeah, she retired.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
a little bit different on my end. I went to a much smaller school than you did, so I could just like I've done this like I think 5 times where the bell rings for the end of the middle school day and then the first kid that walks out, I just walk in.
Hmm.
So they don't particularly care, which is nice.
Yeah. Unfortunate that mine did. I really want. Actually, I don't think I've seen any of my middle school teachers after I left middle school.
No.
Yeah, and I love them all. It's so sad.
I I have a thought for you,
Hmm.
and I don't know if this just plagues me or what, but when I left for ninth grade
Yeah.
at a different high school, and I remembered every person that I'd met in middle school in my head, in my mind's eye, right?
Hmm.
And they still look the same. I can't imagine them like growing up. They're still eighth graders in my mind.
Yeah. People. Yeah. Actually, I kind of have a similar thought. Similar thing because I think there was like a couple kids. Like I still have a lot of middle school friends still added on Snapchat, so I just see their
Yeah.
stories every once in a while. And I'm like, wait a minute, that kid did not look like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's like totally different. I could never imagine them in middle school looking like that. I was like, holy crap, that's such a big change. But speaking of like friends and stuff like that, I kind of want to transition this conversation to like what kind of friend groups or cliques, as one would say,
Oh, you're
that
hurting
you
me.
that that you found interested in. Not like specifically, but like as a general thing. Like you like chatty cliques or something like that. Like what kind of
Yeah, I got
cliques?
you. I got you. Um, so freshman year, I was in band, so that was an easy one for me. Fitting in with the band geeks, kind of. I played violin, which is not a band instrument, spoiler. So I didn't stay for long. That's why I said freshman year.
Hmm.
But yeah, I fit in with them at the beginning. Past that, I suppose I found myself in the quote unquote gamer group, even though I barely play video games, which is interesting. And beyond that, honestly, I think I have like a sample size of each clique. Like I have a couple friends who kind of fit into the socialite group, a couple friends that are more like the techie behind the scene boys, you know?
Yeah, I actually have a similar experience with that because I've always enjoyed to be a part of a bunch of cliques in middle school and even in elementary. I'd always have the rascal clique where we would just like mess around all the time. The ones that actually care like a lot about school, so I'd have like people who I can have fun with and just like mess around all the time, and people I can be serious with, and then people that have like specific interests, like people who play the same games as me, so I'd have like a gamer clique, I guess.
Ha, gamer moment.
I am no comment. That hurt me from the inside, and now my stomach is burning. Um,
Oh man, I didn't know I had that much of an effect on you, Greg.
it was more of the statement, but yes, yes, you did.
Fine.
Um,
So
but
yeah, you were pretty split as well. Do you
mhm.
think that cliques are beneficial or detrimental to friend groups and socializing, and especially in teenage years?
They can be both. Honestly, it
Okay,
depends.
tell me more.
Well, there are specific, like, those social kids, who,
Dang.
uh, not to point fingers, but there are people who, smack talk other people and talk behind their backs, and those kind of cliques, like, people will encourage each other to do so, and so those kind of cliques could be detrimental to, like, the school, like, the environment in the school, or it becomes a little bit more toxic than it should be. But also cliques like, people like cliques where the people in the side the clique actually enjoy themselves and enjoy helping others, like those like it depends on the attitudes of the people inside the cliques is basically what I'm
So
saying.
it's not the cliques themselves; it's just the people with or without them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right. Yeah, I would argue a similar point. I think cliques are unnecessary labels and that we should evaluate people as people rather than as the group they belong to.
Mhm. Um, I guess the last thing I could talk about here is like how often like you switch like I've always had like one or two main people in my life. Like I've always had like I have all these cliques, of course, but then I'd always have my best friend who was always by my side. And I think my best friend has changed like once or not, yeah, once or twice around. And then what about you?
I have had the same best friend since 4th grade. I love her to death, and I've told her multiple times that if she's not married by, I think it's 25 now, the age keeps decreasing, that I'm just going to move in with her and we're going to live together. Uh,
I think I've heard of this
yeah,
before.
yeah, for sure. Um, See, someone asked me the other day if I felt overwhelmed by the amount of people I keep in contact with, and no, not really, because beyond my best friend and a couple other friends, I don't really like talk feelings or talk life. It's just more simple structured Ferris wheel kind of jargon. And that's cool. I need that with some people, but I don't feel overwhelmed because I have less of a personal connection.
Wow, that's really interesting actually.
Yeah.
I guess with that, pretty epic takeaway, not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Um,
we're kind of cute, not gonna lie.
yeah, I guess with that we can end the episode there. It's been around 16 minutes already. Wow, time really flies by. So, I hope you enjoyed. What is this? The
I don't know, man. I've lost count.
eighth
Don't even
episode,
try.
I think.
Yeah, sure. I don't know.
Thank you for the joining in our eighth edition of the Shenanigans podcast, and hope you see you next time, Friday at 3 p.m. next week. Bye bye.